Welcome back to the Lady Dicks podcast. I'm your host, Tay, and you're about to meet my co-hosts, Nikki and Andrea. You're probably here to dick around, let's be honest. That's exactly why we're here. But we'll try to keep this shit just a little bit classy.
Or will we?
No, we won't.
No.
No.
Just kidding.
Hey guys, I'm Nikki. We're glad you didn't ghost us. Today we are detecting the most famous unsolved mob hit, most commonly referred to as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We are throwing on our favorite bowler hats, jumping into the hashtag Dick Squad time machine and traveling back in time to February 14th, 1929 for this mob-filled Valentine's Day episode, even though it's not Valentine's Day, so...
No, wait. Don't say that, because actually this is going to be released on a few days before Valentine's Day.
Just kidding. We're a couple days early, so that's that. I didn't know when this was getting released.
Happy early Valentine's Day. Hey guys, Andrea here. Before we get to that, we've got to share our standard disclaimer with you. This is a comedy podcast, so if you're one of those people that don't believe crime, comedy, or paranormal stories go together, this is 100% not the podcast for you.
Oh, no, it's not.
We also don't recommend this podcast for any minors due to our foul language and gruesome topics.
That's true. The Lady Dicks podcast is an independent podcast, which means we don't have any big financial backers, which is actually good because then we also don't have anyone controlling our content, which is awesome. It's controlled by yours truly. We don't have a network, and pretty much we don't have any help. I don't know why I said pretty much no help. We literally don't have any help.
It's all Tay.
And while we like it that way, it's a huge help to us when we have the support of our followers. So if you love the Dick Squad and you want to support us, you can do so by visiting theladydicks.com. You can go to those websites and you can use our affiliate links, head to the merch shop and get some new threads for yourself. Or you can send us a very welcome one-time donation via PayPal to storiesoftheladydicks.com.
If you don't have any cash to spend on goodies and stuff, we totally relate. Life sucks
like no money.
Sometimes. You can still support the podcast by telling your friends and family about us, and basically anyone who kind of might sort of like us. You
literally
can
anyone.
share away. That way we can, grow our fan base a little bit and find more people to entertain.
True story.
Because that's one of the reasons why we're here, to dick around and entertain
and have
you.
some fun.
And if you really love us, which we know you do.
Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Who doesn't love us?
There's literally no one in this world that doesn't love us.
I like to think I'm
We don't
pretty
have any
lovable,
negative reviews.
actually.
No. We did get another good one.
Oh, nice.
I didn't
Yay,
read
High
it.
five to you.
yes.
Mostly
Thank you for
because
leaving us a good review. We love you so much.
I just saw that it was a 5-star review. I just stopped reading them, generally speaking.
Watch, it's going to be like your mom.
Probably my mom. She was like, I haven't reviewed the podcast yet.
But if it is one of you lovely followers out there who like us, thank you so much.
And as I was saying,
It
if you
definitely wasn't my mom because she has no idea how to do a review.
Yeah.
do love us and
True.
want to give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcatching app, is that right?
Yeah, podcatching.
Didn't we used to say podcasting?
Well, sometimes we say podcatching and
Okay.
sometimes we say podcasting. Technically, they're
Potato,
podcatching
potato.
apps because they catch the pods.
Okay.
It just gathers your RSS feeds.
I've just never seen that before, so sorry.
I think
don't-
Nicole says it and she's asked before.
Mean to
Maybe.
question
I don't
you.
remember.
I remember.
But
Oh, well then.
anyway, leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcatching app, along with a quick comment. Your comment doesn't have to say anything at all. Just tell us your favorite spooky vacation spot or Hollywood Chris, your favorite Hollywood Chris. I mean,
Whoopsies.
Christopher is a form of that name.
But also, Christ wasn't.
But leaving a comment helps bump those ratings. So just show us a little love.
True story. And I forgot to add that you can also go to theladydicks.com and get on our mailing list because I.
Nice.
Okay, so in the words of Matthew McConaughey. All right. I love Matthew McConaughey. I don't know why I was thinking about him when I wrote this, but
But you went there.
I went there. That is more than enough business talk. So let's get into this part spooky, mostly creepy and gruesome mob story. See, I told you you'd give up. It was 10:30 in the morning on Valentine's Day, 1929, in a garage in the Lincoln Park area of Chicago, Illinois. That one I can say. I think.
Woo! Sound the applause.
Yay, Taylor.
Another episode I was working on last night had Massachusetts. You know what I mean? I was like, let's give this to someone else. Anyway, members of the Bugs Moran gang were hanging out doing mob-related stuff.
What?
Probably stuffing gumball machines and counting cash. That's what I imagine they're doing.
Maybe some killings, you know.
Yeah, just a few killings. Whatever. When 7 members were gunned down in cold blood. The hit was arranged by Al Capone, famed mobster and guest star on our Eastern State Penitentiary episode. He does also see ghosts. And is known today as being one of the most famous mob killings of the Prohibition era. Not only that, but it was this hit that put Al Capone on the mob map. Or even just like the general map, I guess. But before we get into the details of the actual event, let's talk about some of the players. What was the Bugs Moran gang? It was, hint, it was not the gang run by the famous mobster Bugsy Siegel, which it kind of sounds like it would be. That gang was Murder Inc. And it wasn't really a gang. It was more of like a coalition of murderous dudes.
Murder for hire.
Forgot to
Hitman.
mention, though, like last time when we were talking about Murder Inc., that is also a record label.
Oh, it totally is. And I'm pretty sure they named it after that.
Oh, 100% they did.
Yeah. Anyway, Bugs Moran gang, not that. George Bugs Moran was a Chicago mobster and bootlegger in the Prohibition era America. He was born in 1893 in Minnesota to an Irish-American family. And Bugs was the childhood friend and later right-hand man of mobster Dion Banyan.
O'Banion, I think
O'Banion, sorry. When O'Banion was killed in 1924, Bugs and his associate Earl Jaime Weiss, super cute, inherited his Chicago gang. And shortly thereafter, Weiss was killed. And in 1926, Bugs was left the sole leader. Naturally, he named the gang after him, because why the fuck not? If I had my own gang, I would 100%. Actually, the Taylor Haar gang.
No.
So maybe I wouldn't. In any case, after Weiss's death, the Bugs Moran gang became embroiled in bloody warfare with rival mobster Al Capone and his men. Capone wanted to control the Chicago gang activity, and Bugs and his boys were the only ones sitting in his way. The Bugs Moran gang frequently hijacked Capone's shipments, killed his allies, and provided competition to his bootlegging business.
Alphonse Scarface Capone.
His name is so dumb.
Yeah, it is.
Alphonse.
Alphonse.
I bet he got picked on when he was in school.
Well, that's why he went with Al.
Yeah. He was the leader of the rival Capone gang.
I feel like his gang naming is way better because, like, the Capone gang sounds good.
Yeah.
The Bugs Moran gang sounds like he's just loves himself too much.
Yeah.
Like the Moran gang, though, would be cool.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sounds like he's just like an
An
annoying tick or something.
Yeah, true.
Anyways. He was born on January 17th, 1899 in Brooklyn, New York, the fourth of 9 children. At 16, he became a member of the 5 Points gang and served aspiring mobster Francesco Lowell.
Francesco sounds like a mob name.
Yeah. At the Harvard Inn, a brothel saloon at Yale.
Ooh, sounds like a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it does.
Prior to this, he flirted with the gang life, having been part of the South Brooklyn Rippers,
Ooh.
40 Thieves Juniors,
Love that.
and the James Street Boys kid gangs.
That sounds not cool.
No. Sounds adolescent. Like,
well, it is.
Yes.
The gang of Delinquent children.
Yeah. That is bands of delinquent children known for vandalism and petty crime in New York.
I'm also not sure, like, vandalism and petty crime is, like, a gang thing.
They
like,
just decided they were a gang because they were tight.
So.
I don't know.
It was also, like, the era of gangs.
Well, that was, like, the beginning of their gang career, probably.
It's where you started out before you got to the big leagues.
You gotta pad that resume.
You gotta start out with a little bit of vandalism.
You gotta get the
crime
taste
before you start killing people.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It's like a ladder. You gotta climb and make your steps. And
I mean,
vandalism and petty crime are gateway crime.
Yeah.
You sound like that officer that goes to, like, the kids' school. And it's like, vandalism and petty crime are gateway crimes to murder. Okay. There's actually, like, a huge gap between murder and vandalism, but, like, whatever.
Smoking pot is a gateway drug, and it's also a gateway to murder eventually.
And if you smoke pot, in 5 minutes, you'll be addicted to cocaine. Sure.
It's like reverse AA. You take your steps. Only it's to going to kill people.
Except for it's the wrong way.
Yeah, it's the wrong way. But I guess it's technically their corporate ladder.
Yeah, I mean, gotta pad that resume.
Capone's famous nickname came from a youthful scrape at the Harvard Inn when a young hoodlum named Frank Galluccio slashed him across his left cheek after Capone made a derogatory comment to Galluccio's sister.
Well, I'd say that was warranted then.
Yeah. Bugs and Capone were head-to-head in Chicago, trying to kill each other for years. The massacre was a turning point in Capone's reputation. Prior to the event, he had been seen by many as a pseudo-heroic figure, having taken over from previous boss Johnny Torero? I don't know.
Torero? No.
Torero?
That sounds what Andrea said. That sounds
Torero?
legit.
I don't know. In 1925, Torero was known for ruling with an iron fist, preferring to gun down his enemies. He retired after being seriously wounded in a assassination attempt in 1924, choosing to leave Chicago for Brooklyn.
I mean, it is the more efficient way to get rid of people you don't like.
Yeah. It's efficient. The Capone gang made their money in bootlegging, gambling, and via running speakeasies.
Sounds like a great time.
Yeah,
well,
chicka, wow.
Something to the tune of $60 million a year. And during the Prohibition era, that's a lot of fucking money.
Is that like $60 million today dollars or equivalent?
Back then
Like
dollars.
Equivalent back
to
then
$60 million today.
No.
I think it's back then dollars.
Yeah.
So they were making $60 million back then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A year.
Oh my God.
But I mean, think about it. They're bootlegging. They're running gambling halls. Both of those take in big
Speakeasies.
cash, and then running speakeasies. It's not like they're running one casino,
multiple
one bootlegging route, and one speakeasy.
They're also all like not legit. Well, gambling is, but
gambling wasn't legit in Prohibition times either.
So
I don't think.
There you go.
And in 1927, his net worth was an estimated $100 million. And that's just Capone.
Yeah.
That's not his, little lackeys and whatever.
Yeah,
like,
no, Capone is like, he was a rich dude.
Yeah.
He had a house in Cuba. I went and saw it.
Oh, very nice.
It's now a restaurant.
Oh, fair enough.
Did you eat there?
No, it was closed when we were there. We were just stopped by on it.
Window shopping.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. It's like a 2-story, like made out of stone.
Nice.
Thing, like beachfront.
And you were probably the most excited person on that whole tour.
I was 100% the most excited. My family thought it was cool too. And my dad is into he likes mobsters too. The Godfather is his probably only movie series he likes. But
Let's be real. Every
your
man
love
your
of the
dad's
mafia
age,
comes from.
that's like what they grew up on was like
they
those.
would quote The Godfather.
Yeah. So
constantly.
100% can see that. Anyways, after the Valentine's Day massacre, Capone was dubbed public enemy number 1.
Which, isn't that... Oh, no, that was the Johnny Dillinger story. Never mind. Because I was thinking there's public enemy number 1 in the movie where Johnny Depp...
Yeah, no, that's John Dillinger. Yeah. And the newly elected President Hoover was urged to provide federal assistance to tackle the increasing mob crime activity in Chicago. The FBI began to investigate Capone after he failed to appear before a grand jury after being subpoenaed in March 1929.
Oopsies.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oversight.
Was that date? So sorry. I didn't realize I had a doctor's appointment.
Whoopsie doopsie.
So he
Can
was.
we rebook that? How about next Tuesday? Does that work for you? Oopsies.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Come to think of it, next week's looking a little bit.
You know what? I am booked solid for the next 6 months. I've got so much stuff. We're opening a new cafe. And we have the Walmart. There's no Walmart.
Yeah.
And we have the department store opening. We've got to flush some cash in there for the card carriers to sell players cards. So super big deal. And then I also have to run some distilled water up to Canada. So if you don't mind, July might work
Needless
for
to
me.
say, the next 6 months are looking pretty ugly.
Super bad for me.
Yeah. So naturally, he was arrested again a few months later in Philadelphia for carrying a concealed weapon.
Oopsies.
Because mobsters don't carry weapons.
No.
Capone served
And they
9
definitely
months.
don't conceal them.
No. That shit's visible. It's you want to see my gun? It's right here, bitch. Try it. Try it. I dare you.
Try me.
So he served 9 months and was released due to his good behavior, even though he was probably still running his businesses from jail.
But I feel like he would be a well-behaved prisoner.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going to go shank some guy in prison.
Well, they probably are all scared of him because they know who he was.
Drug
He was
operation
also probably
and
getting someone else to shank the guys in prison.
Oh,
well, and he was
100%.
probably selling drugs and booze and
True.
You protect me, I'll pay you.
living the high life.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did say when he was in Eastern State that he got whatever he wanted.
Money
his
goes a
room
long
was,
way.
decked out. So.
Yeah. Then in February 1931, he was found guilty on his early contempt of court charge and sentenced to 6 months in jail. Then again, on June 12th, he was charged with, quote, conspiracy to violate prohibition laws, whew, go figure, for operating his bootlegging operation between 1922 and 1931, even though it was probably still in operation.
Yeah, I'm sure it was way better.
And that same month, in 1931, he was also indicted on 22 counts of federal income evasion.
Actually, that's what got him.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. He was convicted in October and sentenced to 12 years. He was first sent to Atlanta before moving to Alcatraz. Frank Nitti? I don't know. Nitti?
Sure.
Became the outfit frontman for the Capone gang in 1932.
Alcatraz is also on our list, and it's an episode that I've already
Ooh,
started.
it'd be so much fun.
There's so many ghost stories in Alcatraz.
Ooh, I love it.
Now that we have some idea of the players, let's get into the actual incident. As we mentioned, it was 10:30 a.m. on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1929. And members of the Bugs Moran gang were gathered at a Lincoln Park garage at 2122 North Clark Street in Chicago.
I have some in the bathroom. You want to use this?
In an attempt to rid Chicago of the Bugs Moran gang, Al Capone ordered Jack Machine Gun McGurn to run a hit on the garage that was used by the gang as a makeshift liquor store to head their bootleg operations.
I do feel like if I was a hitman, Jack Machine Gun McGurn would be a sweet name.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
And his last name kind of sounds like Machine
or
Gun almost.
Taylor Pistolhar. No. No, that's not good. I take that back.
Capone's man, Machine Gun McGurn, picked 4 gunmen, though some reports say there were 5, from outside of the Chicago area, so if there were any survivors of the shooting, Bugs' men wouldn't recognize them as being part of Capone's gang.
Although, wouldn't they recognize Machine Gun? I feel like they would. Whatever.
Perhaps, probably, but maybe he didn't really care.
Yeah, maybe he didn't go in. Like, maybe he hired them to do it, and he was, like, the supervisor. He was, like, the project manager of the hit.
Maybe, or maybe, I mean, he could have, like, there's criminals.
Or maybe he was just a general hitman for hire, like Murder Inc. And so you don't really know who he works for.
Well, and there's criminals that are well known to
true.
the authorities, but, I mean... Everything's crooked, right?
I was actually
corrupt,
more thinking, I was less thinking, because they're mobsters, they're not going to tell the police who did it. They're going to do it themselves. Like, I was thinking of a retaliatory hit, you know?
Right. They also hired lookouts and set them up in an apartment near the garage. Machine Gun McGurn also acquired a stolen police car and 2 police uniforms.
Very nice.
So, like,
I wonder how he did that.
But like I said, everything's corrupt too with these guys, right? Like they have deals with people.
That's true. I just wonder why he only got 2 police uniforms.
I'm sure that it was very strategic. I don't know. He also had a local booze hijacker to contact Bugsy the day before and tell him.
Not Bugsy.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's all right.
There. It's Bugs. That's why.
Oh, right. He also had a local booze hijacker to contact Bugs the day before and tell him he had a shipment of old log cabin whiskey and he was willing to sell it for $57 per case and to meet him the next morning at 10:30 a.m. at the garage to do the deal.
Huh. Clever.
On February 14th, when the lookouts told the gunman that Bugs had arrived, the 4 gunmen that are technically not officially identified but are known to be Fred Killer Burke, John Scalise or Scalise,
Yeah,
Albert Anselmi, and Joseph Lorado. Lordo.
I like Lorado better, but whatever.
Yeah.
I guess it's not his last name.
We're gonna change it for
Yeah.
the purposes of this story.
It's now Joseph Lorado.
Jumped into the police car with 2 of them in uniforms, because there were only 2,
Yeah.
and pulled up to the garage. Bugs' men thought it was a routine police raid, so when the gunman told them to line up facing the wall, they complied. The gunman had 2 Tommy guns, a sawed-off shotgun, and a .45, and they used them to shoot the 7 men who were lined up against the wall. Each of the men received at least 15 bullets. Holy shit.
Yep.
They just went guns
Mostly in
a-blazing.
the head and torso. Neighbors who witnessed the event after hearing the submachine gun looked out the window to see 2 policemen walking behind 2 men dressed in civilian clothes with their hands up.
That's how they did it.
I told you it was
Got
strategic.
That's fair.
They simply assumed it was a typical raid and the men were being arrested. And for weeks afterwards, people actually thought the police were responsible for the mass killing.
They might have been.
Who knows? Well, they probably were in cahoots with them.
Compliant?
Yes.
We'll say.
Exactly. Unfortunately for Capone, Bugs had not yet arrived, having left his hotel late that morning. It's believed that the lookout and subsequently the gunman mistook one of Bugs's men for him.
Oopsie daisy.
Whoopsie doopsie.
Shit. Was that not him? Oh, God. I'm going to be
That's
so
a
fired.
real big fuck up right there.
Shit. Not getting that bonus this year.
Oh, you're lucky if you're going to live.
Yeah. Run and hide.
In fact, the man that was mistaken for Bugs was Albert Weinshank, as they had similar mannerisms and qualities and dressed the same. Bugs actually arrived a few moments late to the meeting. How fucking convenient. But noticed the police car and thought it was a raid and left.
Oh, okay. So there were 7 victims of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Peter Goosenberg, a.k.a. Goosey. He was 41 years old and a frontline enforcer for the Moran organization. Right. Oh, yeah. When I was researching this, they referred to them as the Bugs Moran gang and then also the Moran organization. So
That was
whatever.
their probably legit, like...
Yeah. Their what showed up in their corporate taxes.
Yeah.
Moran
They probably didn't
Organization
fire.
LTD.
Yeah. Inc. Frank Goosenberg, aka Hawk, 37. He was the brother of Peter, and also an enforcer for the Moran organization. Albert Kashlak? Yeah, that makes sense. Alias James Clark.
Okay, makes sense.
He was 42. He was the brother-in-law to Bugs and second in command of the Moran organization. So they did take a big hit. Adam Hayer, he was 42, and he was a bookkeeper and business manager for the Moran organization. Reinhard Schwimmer.
Any relation to David?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Don't think so. Maybe. He was 31. He was an optician who abandoned his practice to gamble on horse racing and an associate of the gang.
Sounds like a good plan.
He was a groupie. That's what he was. He just happened to be there grouping around. Albert Weinshank, this is the guy who looked like Bugs. He was 37. He was also a business manager who managed several cleaning and dyeing operations for the gang. This is the guy who was...
He cleaned up the bodies.
Yeah.
Or managed it.
Several cleaning and dyeing operations? Oh, yeah, I guess that could be that.
Yeah. That could be their legit, and it's like,
they're like,
ooh, so this guy's like,
company.
Go clean up the crime scene before
before they arrive. And finally, John May, he was 36, and he was an auto mechanic, probably the only guy who was supposed to be at the garage, because he sounds like a guy who would work there. Anyways, he worked for them as an auto mechanic. His dog Highball was also there.
Poor Highball.
He was leashed to the axle of the truck of the garage during the shooting.
This is like the saddest part of the story.
Or is it? Because the only survivor of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre was Highball,
but
the
keep
German
reading.
Shepherd.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's still sad.
Oh, it's very sad. I mean, a lot of people died, so that's a big deal.
Really glad he survived.
No, he... Keep reading.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about this.
Yeah.
Whoopsie dipsy.
He was found tied up and trapped under the beer truck covered in blood and shell casings, and unfortunately, due to the trauma caused by the event, Highball was put down shortly after. Sorry, guys. I thought it was a great ending, and then I forgot it had a shitty ending. 6 of the victims died at the scene. Frank Gusenberg was taken to the hospital but died 3 hours later. When he was while he was questioned by police, he refused to name the responsible party, saying, quote, "Nobody shot me."
What? There's about probably 15 bullets in you, so...
Like, what are you talking about? I haven't been shot. It was reported that some of the victims of the scene had their heads, arms, and legs severed.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Disgusting.
So...
I do like that his response was, "Nobody shot me."
Yeah.
Like,
most gang members, though, if they're questioned, it's like,
he's a smart man.
I don't know what you're talking about. Nobody was there. Nobody, talked to me.
But I feel
they won't throw other gang members under the bus because that's, probably against gang code.
True, but I also feel like
speaking to the pigs.
Went with something else other than "nobody shot me."
Hey, this guy was, dying.
Like, are you sure? Because you seem to have, a hole around this whole top area of your body.
Al Capone was the #1 suspect. What? But was never tried for the crime. Go figure. Capone had an airtight alibi as he was in Florida during the massacre, but's because he got his people to do it.
Yep.
It was especially good because he had been called in for questioning by the Dade County Solicitor's Office.
So he's literally sitting with the DA while they were being murdered.
Yeah.
That's great.
Machine Gun McGurn had what's known as a, quote, blonde alibi.
Ooh.
He was at a hotel with his blonde girlfriend from 9 p.m. on February 13th to 3 p.m. on Friday, February 14th.
I'm sure he was.
Yep. She a liar. Fred Killer Burke was 36 at the time. He was a mobster who operated in St. Louis, Detroit, and Chicago. After the massacre, he went to rural Michigan to hide. 10 months after the massacre on December 14th, 1929, he was involved in a car accident in St. Joseph, Michigan. He was known as Frederick Dane at the time, so an alias.
Yep.
I mean, if you're hiding, obviously, you need one.
Sense.
Patrolman Charles Skelly attempted to intervene in the accident, but Burke shot him dead and took off.
Oops.
He wrecked his car, but stole another one and got away. Police searched his home and found an arsenal of guns that included 2 Thompson submachine guns, aka Tommy guns, which were used in the massacre.
I feel like they all had Tommy guns.
Oh,
so.
probably.
Which is kind of cool.
The
In
Tommy
a like
guns,
bad,
are they the
like
ones with,
gangstery
like, the
sort of
spinner?
way.
Like
I think
they've got,
so,
like, the
yeah.
big spinner? 'Cause
Yeah.
we'll talk about the Mob Museum later, but at the Mob Museum, they have Tommy guns replicas that you can hold.
Yeah.
And they're really heavy.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, but that's what they had. That they were prevalent
They
in
do
mob
look
history.
very, like, cool mobby, though.
They do.
I mean, cool is a gruesome word to use, but it's true.
Yeah.
They do look very cool.
It's very
in, like, the mob
fascinating.
sense.
There is something cool about the mob. I mean,
True.
not all the killing and stuff.
Classic
but
mob, not like gangs today.
Yeah.
Yeah. He ran to Green City, Missouri, and married a 20-year-old nurse named Bonnie Porter. On March 26, 1931, he was arrested and later that year convicted of murdering the Michigan police officer. He spent the last 9 years of his life in prison until he died at 47 of a heart attack.
He died young. I guess maybe not at that time.
It's still kind of young for that time, but I mean, if he was in jail
He wasn't
and
in good health.
healthy,
Yeah.
like, shit happens.
Fair.
Genetics?
Yep.
It's still me. Obviously. I was like, I'm done.
Still you.
Giovanni John Scalise, 23, and Alberto,
Alberto.
not Alberta. We're in Berta.
We're in Berta.
Alberto Inselmi,
Yep.
46, both originally from Sicily. Ugh, I got hair in my mouth. Both were known as, quote, cold-blooded Sicilian killers.
Ooh.
John came to America via his aunt Antonia
Magnalorde.
Yep, that. Who lived in Chicago. Alberta, fuck, what the hell? Alberto illegally entered the U.S. around September 1924. Italian authorities put out an arrest warrant for attempted murder and associated with outlaws in 1927. He spoke poor English. The two were known as the Killer Twins. Later in 1929, the Killer Twins were conspiring to take over Capone's gang. Unfortunately for them, he found out and they were killed on May 7th, 1929 at a fancy banquet that was, quote, described as the Academy Awards for Gangsters.
Love it. Best hit goes to Mr. Al Capone. Congratulations, Al.
And they were killed along with a third man. They were beaten with a bat by Capone and shot. So, after Capone got his award, he's like, well, I guess I better start racking it up for next year.
Okay, guys, this is the meeting afterwards. The award. Guys, I'm really happy that we won Hitman of the Year awards. I think it was fantastic. I think our team can do better next year. I know we did 26 this year. I would really like to see it hit like a hard 30. Everyone's like, yeah, go Capone, go Capone. And it's like this big crazy thing. It's like the afterwards party.
Yeah. It's like, well, we better start now. You three? Yeah, you're conspiring against me. You did.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of which, we have a special presentation tonight. I found out these 3 assholes are conspiring against me. So
come up to the stage.
Woo! Everyone's like partying.
Get me my bat.
And then like they drop balloons.
Yeah. Confetti. All right, who wants cake?
Yeah, afterwards, he's like got blood all over him. Cake time?
Avi.
I got ice cream.
And then after, let's have some scotch on the terrace.
Yes. And smoke some Cuban cigars.
Yeah. Joseph Lolordo's brother, Pasqualino, had been killed on January 8th, 1929 by the North Side Gang. He dropped out of sight after the massacre and remained at large.
Spoiler alert, pretty sure he's dead.
I don't know if I explained this, but these guys are all the suspects. But
oh, yeah.
So
I think you did say that at the beginning.
Okay, I might have said that. But in case you're,
wondering
why are we listing out
people?
all these guys? They're the suspects of the massacre. So, anyways,
You've got 2 more. You're at James Ray.
did I finish?
No.
I mean like the Joseph Lordo.
Yes. Because I said, spoiler alert, he's still on or he's probably dead. Which is true.
Oh, yeah. So his brother was killed. He dropped out of sight and remained at large. I don't think I said that part.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay. Just kidding.
I promise.
James Ray and Joseph Guinta were also suspected of being involved. Only Guinta was never taken into custody. Was taken into custody, but released due to lack of evidence. Jack McGurn, Frank Rio, and Frank Frigenti?
Or Frigenti?
Frigenti? I don't know. And even the up-and-coming Tony Accardo had been all suspected of taking part in the massacre. So there was lots of guys that were just like, well, it could have been this guy, could have been that guy.
The Capone gang was really big, so he probably had a huge team of
Yeah,
hitmen
absolutely.
that
It's
he
like
could have pulled on.
Yeah. And some of the guys might have been involved in the planning, and then only certain guys went and actually did the shooting. Anyways, those are your suspects.
Who might have done
Might
it.
have been involved. Most likely were involved in some capacity.
True.
This was one of the first major crime investigations where the science of ballistics was used. Though it didn't do much since no one was ever tried and convicted of the
Although there
murders.
might have been some payoffs happening.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe some lost evidence. Who knows?
So very convenient. Bugs was quoted saying, "Only Capone kills like that," about the crime. Similarly, Capone said, "The only man who kills like that is Bugs Moran."
So jury's out. I guess they both do it.
I guess so. The crime continues to be a figure for the city, even though the scene of the crime was destroyed in 1967. The Valentine's Day Massacre led to Bugs' diminishing role as figurehead in the Chicago mob scene, leaving Capone to oversee the city's activity.
Which was his point all along.
Obviously, he wanted to be
Even
the mob
though
king.
he didn't get killed, he still pushed him out
Yeah.
by killing all his head guys.
So I mean success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it, I guess. But yeah.
I mean,
It was a success.
the hit was not a success.
Yeah.
The overall plan was spot on.
Bugs' gang dwindled their operations in the 1930s, and Bugs left Chicago after Prohibition ended. He was arrested in 1946 for some small-time bank robbery work, and he ended up dying on February 25th, 1957, with a measly $100 to his name at a penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas, at the age of 61 of lung cancer.
That's actually super sad.
That's very sad.
He was a really shady dude. That is not lost on me. But from
It's
going
still
from a
sad.
huge top of his industry to having $100 to his name in prison at 61.
I mean, that was pretty old, but
Yeah, true. I mean, it doesn't seem old now, but
no.
and it was all those cigars he smoked for sure.
Capone died on January 25th, 1947 in Palm Island, Florida, after years of being sick. At the time of his death, his mental health had deteriorated. He suffered from a stroke a few days earlier before contracting pneumonia and suffering from a cardiac arrest. He died at home surrounded by his family.
I think the thing about Bugs' death, to me, that sounds so sad is the fact that he was alone in jail.
Yeah, no, it was totally
versus
sad.
Capone, who was surrounded by friends and family. Sounds like he had a horrible death, but
Wasn't it Capone? I thought it was Capone who ended up having some complications from an STD.
I don't
syphilis
know,
or something.
actually.
I thought he did.
well, it said his mental health had deteriorated, so it's entirely possible because
Yeah.
that's what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So, what you're really here for, besides that great mob history lesson is the paranormal activity.
Woo!
Yay. So 20 years later in 1949, the front half of the garage was turned into an antique furniture store by people who had no idea of the building's history. Like we said, it was destroyed in 67.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so this is before it was destroyed. However, they moved their operations because there was just too many tourists in the area. So I'm guessing they found out what happened. In 1967, the building was torn down, but the infamous wall of bricks was saved. It was purchased by a Canadian businessman who used it in a nightclub in 1972, where he built it into the men's restroom. A few of the bricks were smuggled out by workmen who tore down the building, and in place of the building, a fence lawn from a nearby nursing home was created. 5 trees were planted to mark the place where the wall once stood, and obviously to, I guess, commemorate the people. I don't really know. Anyway, so you can go visit the trees. The location has known to have been haunted for years. Unusual lights and mists have been reported, along with male voices. The sound of screaming men and machine guns firing are also reported, unless that's the current Chicago mob. I assume they still operate. We should have a ton of listeners in Chicago, just as a side note.
No, I recall that, actually.
Which is kind of cool. So hi, guys in Chicago. Tell us how your experiences with this weird place have been. Anyway, people who are, quote, sensitive that stand in front of the fence lawn or walk by it report developing a sense of real fear. Animals also have had poor reactions to the area. The bricks are said to bring bad luck. As legend would have it, after the nightclub outlived its purpose, the bricks were sold individually for $1,000 a piece. However, many of those souls were given back because the new owners suffered a rash of bad luck. Other reports say that the bricks were not sold individually, but kept in a packed box numbered with a diagram so they could be put together. I actually suspect that the second thing is correct, because the wall, as we're about to find out, still stands as the wall was, and they did put it up brick by brick. Although I wouldn't be surprised that some of the bricks were sold for $1,000 a piece.
Yeah.
The wall currently sits in the Mob Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's reported that the entity of James Clark, Moran's brother-in-law, started to haunt Capone. We talked about this in the Eastern State episode, if you recall. Capone tried to send the entity, quote, to the other side, unquote, with the help of medium Alice Britt in 1931, but it didn't work. Not long after they tried to get rid of the spirit, did Capone's personal valet, Jaime Cornish, believe he too saw the ghost. According to his story, he entered the lounge of Capone's apartment and spotted a tall man standing near the window. He demanded the identity, but the figure slipped behind the curtain and disappeared. While in prison at Eastern State Penitentiary, inmates reported that they could overhear Capone screaming, begging Jimmy to go away and leave him alone. Al Capone was buried at Mount Carmel Cemetery. It said that he sometimes appears to the disrespectful visitors who come by to visit his family's plot. I also have heard that the Vegas Mob Museum, which is our spooky traveler destination spot for the day, is also haunted, although I haven't really seen anything like it, and I'll have to look into it more, but if it is, we'll probably cover it on a more Vegas-y episode. This is Chicago-based.
Yeah, fair enough. The Mob Museum is located in downtown Las Vegas. It is a nonprofit organization that showcases the history of organized crime in America. We picked it specifically for this episode of Mob Madness, even though it's not.
No.
We picked it specifically for this episode because of its relation to Al Capone and the brick wall and all those good things. And because one of the exhibits at the museum is also the St. Valentine's Day Massacre wall, which I just said.
Yep.
And now I'm reading it, so you're welcome for repeating myself. Like the legit wall that Tay described, like it's put up like brick by brick. It has the bullet holes and everything.
And I've seen it. It does exist. It's an actual wall.
Are there any missing bricks from it?
I don't recall there being any missing bricks, but there might have been. If there are, they might be on the end.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sure.
Despite the reviews we're going to share, the Mob Museum is a must-see for true crime fans or mob fans, whatever.
True.
Especially if you have a real flair for history and museums. It's literally 3 floors of organized crime history that features the tales of every major player in mob history on both sides of the FBI and the mob. Plus, the underground a speakeasy and distillery in the basement, which is pretty friggin' cool.
I didn't go to the underground, though.
What?
We must have been there. I'm not sure why we didn't go. We were going somewhere else afterwards. We didn't really have the time.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
It's located at 300 Stewart Avenue, just off Fremont Street, and you can get yourself a ticket for as little as $30 US. Overall, on TripAdvisor, it has a rating of 4.5 out of 5. Also, their website says, quote, do some time downtown.
Get it? Like jail?
Yes. It took me a minute. I was kind of like trying to read it, and then I was trying to read ahead while I was speaking. It didn't work very well.
That's fair.
But,
Totally
we have
fair.
a few reviews here for you. May 1787 says, I am an avid museum goer.
I'm pretty sure that's not May's birth year. Just want to say that.
Well, if it is, that's pretty freaking impressive.
She's a ghost.
I love museums and was excited about this premise. Unfortunately, I thought it as awful. There are hardly any actual historical items and mostly just boards to read. It's all stuff I already knew from curiously reading about it online or in books. What?
You have to read shit? So weird.
I don't understand the rave reviews. I paid $25 for something I could have learned for free.
You know what's really funny to me? This is what gets me. The same thing happens with podcasting because people comment like, you guys are just reading stuff we can find on the internet. Where are we supposed to get information that you can't find on the internet?
Yeah.
I'm going to call the mobsters up. Excuse me,
This
Al Capone's
saves
great-grandchild. Can I do an interview with you about Al Capone?
Also,
I don't have time like that.
I think Taylor usually crafts it into a pretty entertaining script. So
I think what people don't realize is, for the most part, what you pay for is the aggregation of that content and presented to you in a certain format.
Yeah.
Or don't pay
it's
for
the
it, like
presentation.
Yeah. You pay money because you don't have to go find that from individual sources.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And just like podcasting, like you can come and listen to this about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, for example, and it's the important facts that we've picked out, so you're not sifting through all the other shit that isn't as important.
There is literally nothing that we've told you today that you cannot find on the internet.
And any
where
other
else
day.
are we supposed to do our research?
Exactly.
Duh.
Well, some's from books and stuff, but you can find that on the internet
it's
too.
all on the internet, yeah.
Ebooks, like whatever.
But the thing is, you don't have to, by listening to an episode of this podcast or any podcast, you don't have to go find that information. Museums work the same way.
Where you would spend hours like
exactly.
researching
reading.
it.
And if you want to, you still can. However, museums, same idea.
They put it all together in one neat little package for you, and usually it's an interesting display. So,
yeah. But yes, there's a ton of reading at the Mob Museum.
Stop being such like negative Nellies.
Don't go to museums if you don't like to read.
Yeah,
that's literally most of what you do. You read and you look at shit.
Mm-hmm.
Jordy Lad 2013 says
Also probably not his birthday.
Probably not. It was probably like the year that he created that username. $24 for a lot of reading. If you can get close enough to read it, save your money and buy a book, then watch Casino instead.
Or
Also
get
a
some
great
glasses.
movie, by the way. Cool Geek 2013. Maybe a friend of Jordy Lad's.
They might have went together.
Maybe. If you grew up in the flyover states or perhaps deep inside a cave, you might find this place interesting, but you'll definitely find it overpriced given the limited content. Otherwise, if you're at all familiar with the mafia or grew up in Chi-Town or the Northeast, you'll be bored to tears by the cursory treatment most topics receive. And finally, we have TRN81. Where do I start? Cost $24 to get in. They said they spent $42 million on this. Really? probably closer to 42,000. There is no flow to the sequence in the place. The exhibits are all in a narrow hallway, so you're stuck going at the speed of everyone else. I don't know. It just seemed like a story told bad and not set up well. Very disappointed.
Ooh, if you don't want to pay, if you want a discount on the tickets, if you go like 1 or 2 hours before close, you don't have time to actually like finish the museum unless you read really fucking fast. But you can go and look through at a discounted price if you just want to check it out without, and you're not interested in like taking everything in. If you just want to check out the Tommy gun and wander through and see some old pictures. I love old pictures. It's one of my favorite things.
Me too.
I can't remember what the ticket price off is, but it's actually a really good deal. Like the last hour, an hour and a half or whatever. Just call them and ask. They'll tell you what you can get for a deal.
Or go check out the underground.
All right. That's it for this week. If you want to hang these with us online, you can find us at the Lady Dicks at all of your favorite social media things. I mostly only play on Twitter and Instagram because Facebook sucks.
Yeah. And theladydicks.com.
Yeah, you can go to ladydicks.com to find out information about us or the episodes, or just see what episodes
Which,
we've done.
FYI, our bios are pretty outdated, possibly.
Actually, we need to talk about that because we need to update them.
Possibly they are. Not possibly.
You can check out information about us, or actually, I'm also going to be posting like information. Like, there's a thing for season 3, like the launch information, and when the season's actually running. So if you want information about, it does not tell you what episode's coming next because we don't release that shit. But if you want to know when we're taking breaks and stuff, you can find that online. Just so that people make the podcast a little bit more predictable, because sometimes we're not. And that's my fault, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I got a business to run.
And this ain't it.
Yeah, sadly, this is not it. One day, maybe.
Yeah.
I would really like it to be hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Cool. Catch us next time.
And in the meantime, try not to ghost anyone.
The end.